Hey Broadway freaks, I just wanted to do a kind of a reaction to an article I found in Playbill that was really interesting. This news story was kind of big last summer, but now there's a little update to it, so I'll kind of just talk about the whole situation. Paradise Square's Broadway cast album sees digital release. Kind of. There's kind of two things I want to talk about. I want to talk about this story and about this total creep loser guy, Garth Drabinsky, and we'll talk about his crazy sketchiness. This article came out yesterday, although for you 2 days ago because I'm uploading this tomorrow. This came out January 3rd. Paradise Square's previously announced cast recording is finally seeing the light of day via a somewhat under-the-radar release on composer Jason Howland's Instagram. Though we knew it had been fully recorded, the prospects for a release of the album had become shaky following the high-profile financial and legal woes for producer Garth Drabinsky that emerged from the musical's final weeks on Broadway. And then it goes more into kind of the update part. Most articles do this. A lot of times the update for an article will be in the first one or two paragraphs, and then the rest of the whole article is basically just background on the show it's talking about. This is Drabinsky's Paradise Square troubles began shortly before the Tony-nominated musical's July closing. Drabinsky, who was basically running the whole show, didn't pay out about $350,000 worth of benefits and wages. And this is stuff like, as was talked about on Haley Kaleem's TikTok. She made a couple of TikToks about how the cast wasn't getting paid for the cast recording, the session in the studio, which is separate work that you have to do. They weren't getting paid for that. Also, they weren't getting paid all their benefits, like healthcare benefits and 401k. So they were getting like their regular salary, but they weren't getting some of their other deposits that they were supposed to be getting. And then by the last week, they weren't receiving their final payment. So in July, a letter was written from the cast to Actors Equity, which is a union that pretty much every professional actor is a part of. Since work on Paradise Square began in Chicago, I don't want to read this whole thing. There has been one person making all executive decisions surrounding the production. It's not the producer on record. It says of record, but I think it means on record. But it is well known that they are in full control and therefore no action can be taken against them. They're talking about Garth Drabinsky. They have withheld benefits and pay from many company members and have created an unsafe, toxic, and frequently hostile work environment. When presented with these concerns from the company, this person has continually been dismissive, defensive, and often abusive. So not only has he not been paying, and we'll get more into how he has a history of not paying people. Not only that, but he's also just being like an asshole, basically, just in person. And also there were a lot of claims that he was basically racist. But that's not what a lot of this article focuses on. I wonder if they're just skirting that issue. But that was something that Drabinsky was saying when he sued, which he did in October. He ended up suing. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself a bit, but after this letter was sent to Equity, Actors Equity listened to it, and they basically blacklisted Garth Drabinsky from any professional work with actors or workers who are under that union. So he's basically just up Schitt's Creek. He can't do any work now, which is a good thing, I think. But he sued because I guess what else are you going to do? Anyway, they end with saying, therefore, due to outstanding payments and benefits, a continued pattern of abuse and neglect that created unsafe and toxic work environment, the company of Paradise Square called for Garth H. Drabinsky to be placed on the Actors Equity Do Not Work list. So they have a Do Not Work list, and he's now on that. So I looked a little bit into Drabinsky, and there were some other articles. The legal drama is not the first for Drabinsky. The Tony-winning ragtime and showboat producer was convicted of fraud and forgery in 2009 following the dissolution of his production company, Livent. I do not know how to pronounce that. Live Entertainment Corporation of Canada. Pronunciation. Okay, it's Livent, according to Google. But I did read into it, and I looked at the kind of the Wikipedia for Livent, and it was a huge deal. It produced Phantom of the Opera. It made Toronto the second largest touring attraction for theater in North America. But he had this little problem where he was convicted of fraud and forgery. They systematically, by they, I mean Garth Drabinsky and Myron Gottlieb, they were the founders of Livent, systematically doctored Livent's financial statements and sentenced them to jail terms of several years for fraud and forgery. So that's kind of a big deal. He was released from prison in 2014, and 5 years later, he's working on Paradise Square on a massive Broadway production. That's just crazy to me how normal that is. Apparently, he's very talented. He created this company that brought so much tourism to Toronto and produced Ragtime, Showboat. He's good at what he does, but he's also got really bad character, and it's just interesting how the world kind of just values what you can do, I guess, over your character. And it's like, you'll get a punishment, but it won't be long before that punishment is lifted and you just get to go back into the industry and do the same thing over and over. So I'm not critiquing specifically Broadway. It's just the world. It's the way it is. And sorry, I'm not looking at the camera much. I'm looking at this article mainly. But I just think I was about to say it. I'm not going to say it. I think it's intriguing. I'm kidding. That's the same word. It's important to note that this is not totally unusual in the world of economics. So anyway, this was like huge news in the summer, and the biggest update right now is that their soundtrack is not being released, and they do have a tour that's supposed to come up, and it's a really good show. It's about Irish immigrants and Black Americans, and the music is like a combination of those two cultures, and it's really, really good. And the soundtrack's like the best thing about it. I talked all about it in my Tony's summary video that I'll probably put up there. It's a great show, but it's sad when, whenever you enjoy a show, you have to think about the background drama that happened behind it. I don't even like calling it drama. Drama is when two people have a spat backstage. This isn't drama. This is like criminal action that he got punished for, but this really should be more than just getting blacklisted for working with equity actors. I mean, it's great that he has like no career now, but there needs to be like legal action taken. Another thing I just wanted to mention is that these kind of articles are kind of rare. If you know, years ago when I started this channel, it used to be Broadway News specifically, but I noticed Playbill is a site you have to be careful with because they work with Broadway specifically. So there's going to be, I don't want to say the 4-letter B word, but there's going to be some conflict of interest at times when it comes to these controversies. They're going to try and lessen the impact of it and make it seem like it's not a big deal, hand wave it away. There were a lot of times when there was a controversy, I couldn't go to Playbill. I had to go to other sources like Variety or Washington Post to find information about it because you just didn't get as much depth on Playbill or BroadwayWorld.com because these places are meant to up Broadway's numbers fundamentally. I like Playbill generally. You get a lot of specific Playbill news. Hadestown makes history. January 4th being the longest running show in Walter Kerr Theater. Cool news like that, but when it comes to like controversies, usually you have to look elsewhere. George Floyd, Black Lives Matter era was when it started, when like Broadway started taking responsibility a little bit for some stuff. So I think Broadway, now more so than when I started this channel in 2019, is like taking responsibility for some of the controversies that happened. Anyway, that's kind of all I had to say. He shouldn't have been back in business after being convicted of fraud and forgery and going to prison for it, because I guess he didn't lose enough money for the industry. It's just sad that's kind of the world we live in, but hey, the chickens came home to roost. He did the same thing he did last time. These people that are like highly narcissistic and they just act impulsively and don't have any principles they live by. I feel like there's a lot of those these days that are coming up and becoming very popular. I'm glad that people speak out and social media exists. A lot of the stuff came out through TikTok so that we can kind of hold these people accountable and slowly but surely make the world less and less corrupt and more honest. But it's hard when, money kind of rules everything. Honesty isn't always the number one priority. I'm going on a bit of a tangent, but that's all I had to say. And let me know what your thoughts are on this. So hopefully that'll eventually change. And I guess that's my TED Talk for the day. Hope you appreciated this video. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Keep loving theater. I'll see you next time.